No doubt that everyone is suffering with the COVID-19 pandemic and the restrictions that, even though they're gradually easing, have certainly, since they've been introduced to help combat its spread, have caused a big downturn in business, in people's lives. But there's also a fair argument to be made that residents and business owners who live in the regions have been affected particularly badly, given that the pandemic is just the latest in a long line of disasters like drought, flood, bushfires, grasshoppers. The bush has been copping it from all sides in recent years. But the Queensland Rural, Regional and Remote Women's Network, QRRRWN, together with the Royal Flying Doctor Service and the Sisters of the North, have put together an 8-week webinar series with the focus on wellbeing, the focus particularly on women looking after their own health first. It's pretty comprehensive. Let's find out a little bit more. It won't cost a cent. Tracey Martin is QRRRWN President, and she joins me now. Tracey Martin, good morning. Welcome.
Oh, good morning, Dave. Thanks so much for having me.
Was there one particular impetus for QRRRWN to decide to arrange these webinars with your partners in putting them on, or was it like a build-up of factors?
Look, before COVID came about, we were already getting feedback from our members that they were exhausted. So we're obviously a women's rural and regional organisation, and we were getting feedback that the drought and just the cumulative effects of many years of impacts on regional and rural communities was really having an impact. So we knew that they needed something, and then COVID came along. As we're seeing, there's really quite a disproportionate impact on women within the families, and also in women's jobs in rural and regional areas, because many of them are supporting on farm, as well as having casual part-time roles in town. And even many women have side gig businesses that bring what we know to understand is 74% of farm income. So look, we were really trying to find something that supported our members, and we just looked immediately to partners who understand rural and regional people.
I suppose coupled with that, the women on the land have also, until recently, had to shoulder the load, or the majority of the load, of doing that homeschooling, or at least supervision of kids who were having to do their schooling from home, which would have just been the icing on the cake, I suppose.
Look, absolutely, and I think that's been really stressful, and in many areas it's continued because a lot of boarders haven't been able to return, and it's impacted that side gig. And even just those part-time jobs in town, and that extra income that's coming in, for some families is putting food on the table, particularly as many areas are still in drought.
Has the situation been exacerbated by the fact that so much of the coverage of the effects of the pandemic have tended to focus either on the larger cities or the effect on the country as a whole? Is that part of the issue as well, that the effect of the pandemic on rural communities, not just the women in rural communities, but I guess regional communities overall, is largely being ignored in the overall coverage?
Look, I think, there's an enormous amount of media, and it can be overwhelming because there's a lot of information coming through, not just about the pandemic, but also about what's available to businesses. And not all of it's really targeted to rural and regional areas. But what we noticed as well, that there wasn't anything that really took into consideration some of the unique impacts on rural and regional areas. And then so much is about what we need to be doing and how we need to protect ourselves and what we can apply for, what's available, what's not available. But what we wanted to focus on was you. How are you doing and what can we do to support you?
So given that, give me a rundown of what's going to be in these webinars.
We've taken an approach which is about putting your own oxygen mask on first. And the RFDS, together with some of the health services up in the northwest, who are really good at this sort of stuff, have put together 4 webinars right at the front, which is about your own health. It's about exercise, sleep, diet, and also the psychology around exercise and how that actually helps pick you up and move you forward. So that to us and to the RFDS and Sisters of the North is a really essential piece before you start to really try to do anything substantial in your own life or your family or your business. And we're trying to support people there. And then the second half is about, all right, now let's get going, and how are we going to do that? And giving people some really, really manageable hacks, really, their life hacks about what the next steps are.
And who is presenting them?
Tim Driscoll's kicking off tomorrow night. Now, he's a psychologist from the Royal Flying Doctor Service, and he's got enormous experience in rural and regional Queensland. He's also got one in week 3, and he's looking at there about the importance of staying connected and how that really is a strength to all of us. And he gives us a bit of a rundown on how to do that. We've got Julia Spicer, formerly Telford, and she's in week 2 going to talk to us about how to network and how to work out what that is. Basically mapping your network for support as well as in business. So she'll sort of take us through a really nifty process for doing that. We've got 2 fellows in week 3, which are talking about the psychology of exercise. And I'm really interested in this one in terms of how do we really get stuck into exercise and what benefit does it create psychologically. And Tom Greer-Smith from Outback Futures and Jacob Spatuzzo from North and West Remote Health are running that seminar for us. And in the following week, on the 14th of July, we've got Stephanie Bell. She's a dietitian from the North West Remote Health, and she's got a tremendous experience in rural and regional Queensland. So we're going to hear some really great tips from her about how diet really does power us to move forward. And after that, we've got that second seminar by Tim Driscoll about staying connected, and then we move into the business topics. We've got one topic by Lisa Duncan, who's a mentor and business advisor from Future with Focus, and she's going to help us with the next 90 days. So we've picked a time frame there. It's not too long and it's not too short, but just trying to focus on the next 90 days to get us through for yourself, for your family, and for your business. Then Beck from House Paddock Training Consulting is going to talk about time management. And she takes an interesting perspective on time management and focuses on how we manage ourselves, because that's what we've got control over. And then Lisa's going to finish off with how do we get the most out of a crisis and what we can be doing now in a bit of a downtime to make sure we're ready for the next phase.
Wow, it's such a holistic approach. So should people make a point of attending all of them, or do you fully expect that some women will see some as more relevant than others and might just sort of target different ones?
Look, definitely pick the ones that you're interested in. You can certainly sign up for all of them. We've had some queries this morning from other states, so people wanting to join from out of state. It's free, it's open to everybody, men, women, children, whole families, people in business, people you work with. So we want everyone to try it, to really take away from it what they can.
You mentioned men, that might be surprising, but you guys have put it up, but you're happy for anyone who sees something in the subject matter to dip into it, regardless of gender, background or anything.
Absolutely. It's open to everybody, and we wanted to make it free, and it's just available across Australia as well.
Great thing to take part in. It starts now, this series called Rising Beyond Now, Strategies for Health, Life and Business. Starts tonight at 7:30, and if you'd like more details, just log on or do a search for QRRRWN, so QRRRWN on the web. And that'll take you to their website, and there are links from there and the full schedule of these webinars, not all of which you have to take part in. It's not a series that flows on from one another. They're basically each individual, each self-contained. QRRRWN is a network for women in regional areas, but men can log on. You don't have to be in Queensland. It doesn't matter, and they're absolutely free. So well worth taking advantage of. It's 5 to 7. On your